Here's a secret that the people who actually formulate your skincare will never say out loud on camera. A lot of the cosmetic chemists who develop the $300 creams go home and use the $12 ones. They know something you were never supposed to find out, that the active ingredients in skincare cost almost nothing, that the difference between a luxury jar and a drugstore tube is mostly the jar, the fragrance, the celebrity, and the story printed on the box. The formula underneath is often nearly identical. Sometimes the cheap one is better because it skips the heavy fragrance and the unnecessary extras that irritate aging skin in the first place. So today, I'm doing something different. No single miracle ingredient, no buried hack. 5 real brands. You can walk into a store and buy every one of them this week, that the beauty world quietly ignores because they're unglamorous, unhyped, and cheap. And that are, if you know which products to grab, absolute gold mines. These are the brands that quietly outperform their price by a mile, while the expensive names spend their money on packaging and your insecurity. By the end of this, you'll be able to build a complete, genuinely excellent routine. Cleanse, treat, moisturize, protect for less than the cost of a single luxury serum. Let me show you the 5, exactly which products to reach for and the ones to skip. But before the brands, you need the one rule that makes all of this make sense, because without it, you'll keep falling for the markup forever. The rule is this: in skincare, you are paying for 2 completely separate things, and they have nothing to do with each other. The first is the formula, the actual ingredients doing the work on your skin. The second is the experience, the weight of the glass, the scent, the name, the feeling of luxury when you unscrew the lid. The genius of the industry is that they've trained you to believe these are the same thing, that if it feels expensive, it must work better. It doesn't. A potent, well-formulated product can come in a plastic tube for $8, and a mediocre one can come in crystal for $400. Once you can separate the formula from the theater, the entire pricing structure of this industry collapses. And these 5 brands are where that collapse works in your favor. Here they are. Number 1, The Ordinary. This is the brand that broke the cardinal rule of the industry. It told you the truth about cost. The Ordinary was built on a single radical idea: sell the active ingredients on their own, at close to what they actually cost to make, and let people stop paying $100 for a serum that's mostly water with a few cents of the good stuff stirred in. And it terrified the rest of the market, because suddenly you could buy a bottle of niacinamide or hyaluronic acid or a vitamin C or a gentle exfoliating acid for a handful of dollars each. The exact same molecules sitting inside the luxury serums charging 10 and 20 times more. Here's why everyone ignores it, and it's deliberate on your part more than theirs. It looks clinical and confusing. The labels read like a chemistry exam: percentages, acid names, abbreviations. And most people get intimidated and retreat back to the pretty jar that tells them nothing but feels safe. So let me make it simple. For aging skin, the 2 products that matter most from this brand are the niacinamide, which evens tone, calms redness, and supports the barrier, and the hyaluronic acid, a humectant that pulls water into the skin and plumps fine lines, the same molecule those $80 hydrating serums are built around. Both cost less than a fast food meal. If you want a gentle vitamin A alternative to harsh retinol, they make one of those too, cheaply. The thing to understand is that you don't need 10 of their products. You need 2 or 3, used consistently, and you've replaced a shelf of overpriced serums for the price of one. The brand isn't ignored because it's bad. It's ignored because it's honest. And honesty is the one thing the rest of the counter can't compete with on price. Number 2, Vanicream. This is the dermatologist's quiet secret, the brand they recommend in the office, and almost nobody talks about online because there is nothing exciting to say about it. And that is precisely why it's a gold mine. Vanicream is built on a single, boring, brilliant principle. Leave out everything that irritates skin. No fragrance, no dyes, no harsh preservatives, no essential oils. None of the additives that make a product smell luxurious and feel fancy, but quietly inflame, redden, and age sensitive and mature skin over time. And here's what almost nobody connects. Fragrance is one of the most common causes of skin irritation, and irritation is one of the quiet drivers of premature aging. Every time your skin is inflamed, it's stressed, and chronic low-level stress on the skin breaks down the barrier and accelerates the very lines you're trying to prevent. The luxury world drenches its products in scent because scent sells. It's the experience you're paying for. But after 40, when your barrier is already thinner and more reactive, that beautiful fragrance can be working against you every single day. Vanicream's moisturizing cream is the hero product, a rich, simple, fragrance-free cream that seals the skin and repairs the barrier for a few dollars, doing the job of a barrier repair complex that costs 5 times more. Their gentle cleanser is equally good, washing without stripping. There is no marketing here, no influencer campaign, no glossy ad. There is just a quietly excellent formula that dermatologists trust precisely because it does so little except the one thing that matters. If your skin is sensitive, reactive, or simply tired of being irritated by products that promise the world, this is the brand the experts use when nobody's watching. Number 3, Nivea, and specifically the blue tin. This one is going to sound almost too humble to take seriously, and that reaction is exactly the trap. Nivea Creme, the heavy cream in the round blue tin, has been made in essentially the same form for over a century. Your grandmother probably had one on her dresser. It is one of the most quietly effective occlusive moisturizers ever made, and it costs almost nothing, and the entire luxury skincare world would prefer you keep thinking of it as old-fashioned and beneath you. Here's the chemistry the blue tin is hiding in plain sight. As skin ages and stops producing its own oil, it desperately needs an occlusive layer, something rich that seals moisture in and stops it evaporating into the air, because that water loss is what deepens every line and roughens every texture. Nivea Creme is exactly that, a rich, sealing cream that locks hydration into dry, mature skin overnight. People who pay a fortune for thick night creams and sleeping masks are very often paying for a fancier version of what this tin does for the price of a coffee. Used at night over slightly damp skin, or as a rich balm on dry patches, elbows, hands, and the cracked skin of winter, it's a workhorse. I'll be fair, it is rich, so if your skin is oily or acne-prone, you keep it to the dry zones rather than slathering the whole face. But for dry, mature, thirsty skin, the blue tin is one of the great undervalued products in the entire market. They also make an affordable Q10 line for those who want a lighter daytime option with an antioxidant added. The point stands, a brand this old and this cheap survives 100 years for one reason only: it works. And the fact that it isn't cool is the entire reason it's still affordable. Number 4, Olay Regenerist. Now we get to the brand that genuinely embarrasses the luxury counter, because it punches so far above its price that it's almost unfair. Olay is a drugstore brand. It sits on a shelf next to the shampoo. And the Regenerist line in particular is packed with the actives that actually have science behind them for aging skin: niacinamide, peptides, and humectants, at a price that's a fraction of the department store creams making the exact same promises. Here's the part that matters. Niacinamide is one of the few anti-aging ingredients with real, repeated evidence behind it. It improves tone, supports the barrier, helps with fine lines and texture, and calms redness. And Olay builds its formulas around it cheaply. The brand has openly put its products up against creams many times the price, and time after time, the affordable formula holds its own. The reason this isn't common knowledge is simple. There's no prestige in admitting your best result came from the drugstore aisle, so the conversation stays focused on the expensive names while the cheap one quietly does the job. The Regenerist moisturizers and serums are the ones to look at: a daily niacinamide-rich cream, the peptide serum, and their affordable retinol option if you want gentle renewal. You're getting researched, effective actives in a formula that performs, for the price of a few lattes instead of a car payment. For the woman who's been told that anti-aging results require a luxury budget, this brand is the proof, sitting on a shelf you walk past every week, that the budget was never the point. The ingredients were: Number 5, Pond's. I saved this one for last because it's the most overlooked of all, and for this audience especially, it might be the most meaningful. Pond's has been around since the 1800s. The cold cream in the iconic tub is the product generations of women used to cleanse and moisturize in one step, long before the 10-step routine was invented to sell you 10 products. And it's still here, still cheap, still doing exactly what it always did, and almost everyone under 60 has forgotten it exists. Here's why it's a gold mine. Cold cream is a beautifully simple idea, a rich emulsion that melts away makeup, sunscreen, and grime while moisturizing the skin at the same time without the stripping, squeaky harshness of modern foaming cleansers. The harshness that, as we've covered, is one of the worst things you can do to skin after 40. You massage it in, wipe it away with a warm cloth, and your skin is clean, but never tight, never raw. It's the gentle cleansing method dermatologists now repackage with modern names and premium prices, and Pond's has been quietly selling it for over a century for a few dollars a jar. They make more than the cold cream, affordable moisturizers, gentle cleansers, simple effective basics across the line. But the Heritage Cold Cream is the hidden gem, the thing your mother or grandmother used that turned out to be ahead of its time. In a market obsessed with the newest launch, a product this old gets dismissed as a relic. It isn't a relic, it's a survivor, and things survive 100 years in this industry for exactly one reason. So there are your 5. The Ordinary for cheap, honest actives, Vanicream for gentle, fragrance-free barrier care, Nivea's Blue Tin for rich overnight sealing, Olay Regenerist for researched anti-aging that punches far above its price, and Pond's for Heritage Cold Cream cleansing that was right all along. Now let me show you how this actually comes together, because individually, these are good products, but the real power is in how cheaply they assemble into a complete routine that rivals anything on a luxury counter. In the morning, cleanse gently, Pond's or the Vanicream cleanser if you prefer foam without the strip. Apply your niacinamide and a few drops of hyaluronic acid from the Ordinary onto damp skin. Layer the Olay Regenerist moisturizer with its peptides and niacinamide on top. And then, the step that matters more than every other combined, sunscreen, every single day, because up to 90% of visible aging comes from the sun, and no serum or cream on this list, cheap or expensive, can outrun an unprotected afternoon. At night, cleanse again, press in your humectants, and seal everything with the Vanicream cream or the Nivea Blue Tin so your skin holds its moisture for 8 uninterrupted hours. Add that up. Cleanser, 2 actives, a day moisturizer, a night cream, and a barrier seal. A genuinely complete, genuinely effective routine for less than the price of one mid-tier luxury serum with money to spare for the sunscreen that does the heavy lifting. That is the whole point of this video. The complete routine costs less than the single product the counter wanted to sell you, and it works at least as well, often better, because it's built on formula instead of theater. And let me be straight with you, because I won't pretend there's no nuance and I'm not a dermatologist. Cheap doesn't automatically mean good. There are bad, cheap products and good, expensive ones, and the skill is knowing which specific products inside each of these brands are the gems, which is exactly why I named them, rather than just saying buy drugstore. Some of these are rich and won't suit oily or acne-prone skin, so patch test and keep the heavy occlusives to your dry zones if you break out easily. The Ordinary's actives are potent enough that you introduce them one at a time, slowly, and don't layer 5 at once. And if you have a skin condition or you're on a prescription, your dermatologist's advice beats any video, including this one. The honesty is the whole value here. Anyone telling you that price is a reliable signal of quality in skincare is either uninformed or selling you something. What I want you to take from this isn't really about 5 brands. It's about a way of seeing the whole aisle. Once you understand that you're paying separately for the formula and for the fantasy, you stop being a target and you start being a buyer. You walk into the store, you ignore the lighting in the glass and the woman in the white coat, and you read the actual ingredients and reach for the tube that delivers them without the markup. That skill is worth more than any single product, because it works on every shelf, in every store, for the rest of your life. The expensive brands aren't worried about losing one sale. They're worried about you learning to see, because a customer who can tell the formula from the theater never overpays again. If this was useful, the best thing you can do is put it to work this week. Pick one product from this list to swap in for something overpriced you're currently using and see for yourself. And drop a comment with the most expensive skincare product you've ever bought and whether it actually beat the cheap stuff, because I read them, and the pattern in those answers tells the real story better than any ad ever could. Subscribe to the Beauty Armor if you want the rest of this, the stuff the aisle doesn't want you decoding. There's a whole community here learning to stop overpaying and start buying smart, and it's growing every week. Next time, I'm going further into the markup than I ever have. I'm putting specific cheap products head-to-head against the luxury bottles they're nearly identical to, the actual dupes, named, including the $8 one that matches a serum selling for over $300. Not vague drugstore alternatives. The real ingredient for ingredient matches the brands sue people for pointing out. That one's going to ruffle some feathers. I'll see you there.